Members, it's time, and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Item 1 on the agenda, information paper issued since the last meeting. Paper number CB bracket 2417/2025 bracket 01. Information paper provided by the administration on amendments to the forms of relevant fixed penalty notices to introduce mobile printing of FPNs. Item 2 on the agenda, items for discussion at the next meeting. Perhaps we'll first invite the administration to join us. Oh, the secretary is coming in. List of outstanding items for discussion was updated at the meeting on the 10th of February when we discussed our work plan. The next regular meeting of this panel will be on the 24th of April, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. The administration proposes to take up 2 items for discussion. 1, results of public consultation on the proposed amendments to the food adulteration metallic contamination regulations cap 1325 and proposal on regulation of konjac containing jelly confectionery. So that's item 1 on the list of outstanding items for discussion. 2, creation of a supernumerary directorate post in the Food and Environmental Hygiene Departments for overseeing private columbaria and planning of municipal infrastructure projects upon the lapse of 2 supernumerary directorate posts. This is item 2 on the list of outstanding items for discussion. Members, do you have any other comments? No? In that case, these are the 2 items we will take up at the next regular meeting. Item 3 on the agenda, Food Surveillance Program 2024. There are 2 documents, paper number CB bracket 2446/2025 bracket 02 and bracket 03. Bracket 2 is provided by the administration, and bracket 3 is the background brief prepared by the Secretariat. At the meeting on our work plan, the administration proposed to discuss the import and sales arrangement of hairy crabs under this item. So members may raise questions and follow up on the matter under this item. Members, if you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Secretary, can you take us through the paper, please? So we've already read the paper, so please be brief, then there will be more time for discussion. Thank you. The Food Surveillance Program is an important work of the Center for Food Safety to ensure food safety in Hong Kong. CFS adopts a risk-based principle in collecting food samples for testing at the import, wholesale, and retail and catering levels. In 2024, CFS tested about 66,900 samples for surveillance. The overall satisfactory rate was 99.8%. Well, it's a very high rate worldwide, and this rate is similar to that in the previous year. Now, for cases where they fail the test, then the CFS will take follow-up action. For example, tracing the source of the food consignment and place of origin, and then instructing vendors to stop sale and remove from shelves the affected batches of food, or requesting importers or distributors to record and dispose of the implicated foods and making public announcements and explaining to the public the food safety risks involved, etc. The CFS also closely monitors food surveillance results and food incidents in Hong Kong and other places, and then they will conduct relevant risk analysis, and then they will step up surveillance as necessary to ensure food safety. Now I'll invite Dr. Yvonne Lam, Assistant Director, Risk Management, Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, to briefly take us through the main findings and outcome in the Food Surveillance Program 2024. Thank you. I would like to report to members on the Food Surveillance Program in 2024. As the Secretary pointed out, Food Surveillance Program is an important work of the CFS. Every year, adopting the risk-based principle, we will collect food samples for testing at the import, wholesale, and retail and catering levels. In 2024, the CFS collected about 66,900 samples. The overall satisfactory rate was 99.8%. This is comparable to the rate in the previous year. As for unsatisfactory samples identified, we will take follow-up action as appropriate. That includes tracing the sources of the food consignments concerned, informing the relevant authorities of the places of origin, or instructing the vendors to stop sale and remove from shelves the affected batches of food, requesting the importers and distributors to record and dispose of the implicated foods, and at the same time, the CFS may make public announcement explaining to the public the food safety risks involved. We closely now our surveillance program also covers surveillance of online food sales because they are getting popular. So we have increased the number of annual samples from 1,500 to about 8,700 in 2024 compared to 2023. The increase in samples collected was about 3.6%. The overall satisfactory rate of online food was about 99.9%. And we also test food samples purchased from online delivery platforms. In 2024, we tested about 1,300 samples. We also have continuous surveillance of meat, poultry, and ready-to-eat food to ensure their safety. In 2024, we tested about 7,400 samples. The overall satisfactory rate was also 99.9%. And in summer, we have targeted food surveillance on ready-to-eat food for microbiological testing. In 2024, we collected 1,900 food samples. The overall satisfactory rate was 99.8%. In 2024, we conducted targeted food surveillance on nutrition labeling, targeting with three specific projects on prepackaged food jam, prepackaged yogurts and oat drinks, and canned meat. We collected 120 samples, and then we also take various measures to step up food surveillance and ensure public safety. On hairy crabs, CFS conducts surveillance on hairy crabs at the import and retail levels. Every batch, a consignment of imported hairy crabs must be accompanied by a health certificate to ensure the safety of the consignment. And then for hairy crabs from aquaculture farm, we will test the first consignment, such as to test for metallic contaminants and veterinary drug residues and dioxins. If the test is safe, then the subsequent consignments will not normally be subject to testing at the import level again in the same year from the same aquaculture farm. At retail level, CFS adopts the risk-based principle to take samples for dioxins and other chemical tests. In 2024, at the import and retail levels, we took 125 hairy crab samples for testing. On foods imported from Japan, since the 24th of August 2023, the government prohibited import of aquatic products, sea salt and seaweed from 10 metropolis and prefectures from Japan. We also step up radiological tests. We have collected more than 85,000 samples of imported Japanese food products for radiation testing. So far, no samples were tested with radiation levels exceeding the Codex guideline levels. So that's our presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lam. 7 colleagues, including myself, have asked to speak. I'll read out the list. Mr. Scottler, Mr. Kitson Yang, Deputy Chairman, Mr. Ronick Chen, Mr. Tong Li Tse, Ms. Chen Ha-Yan, and myself, Mr. Peter Xu and myself. 5 minutes each for questions and answers. Okay, first to Mr. Scottler. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm concerned about surveillance of online food sales because every year we will always ask questions on this under the food surveillance program item. But I would like to focus on mainland shopping now, because 3 platforms have already started direct delivery to Hong Kong or the waiving of delivery fees. So members of the public may buy high-risk foods from these platforms. Now there's a case. Someone bought frozen or yogurt or cheese that requires refrigeration from mainland platform. And then the food delivery companies deliver the food to Hong Kong directly. So do you have difficulties collecting samples because these are transactions by individuals? And there are probably food delivery companies working with online food platforms. Maybe some items of high risk, they shouldn't be sold to Hong Kong. Or would you take random samples, say about dairy products or food or meat products? Because on some platforms they offer free delivery after people buy a certain amount of the products, but then it would make it difficult for the department to collect samples for testing. So what are the measures taken by the department? Perhaps Dr. Christine Wong, the controller of Food Center for Food Safety, will take the question. Thank you. Now, the government, including the CFAS, are very much concerned about the development of online food sales. In terms of regulation, there are 2 major categories. One, we're talking about regulated food. That means food of high risk. For example, meat, as mentioned by Mr. Leung, or poultry, eggs. These are considered high-risk food products. So that's why we are more stringent in terms of import control. So for meat imported to Hong Kong, there's need for health certificate as an additional form of protection. So at the boundary crossing, we're doing much publicity now. Say if the sector imports high-risk food, they know what the control requirements are. But then for individuals, as they cross the boundary, maybe they're not so well informed. So that's why at the boundary crossing points, we're doing a lot of publicity. Well, there's a CAP 132KA, high-risk food, poultry, and so on. Such live products cannot be brought into Hong Kong. There's need for a health certificate. And then if there are processing factories on the mainland, they must also seek approval from the relevant authorities on the mainland. Is more than just a health certificate. And then before the food is imported to Hong Kong, there is need to apply for an import license. And then at the boundary crossing point, BCP, we take a multi-pronged approach. We step up publicity. At the same time, we step up enforcement. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Now I'm talking about online platform. It's not about someone bringing in food, but rather they group together several purchases and then deliver them across the boundary. So you may not be able to identify these cases, but then there may be eggs or dairy products in those purchases. Dr. Wong, well, if that's the case, then we keep in close liaison with the customs, because the customs are the first line of defense. If they spot any problems, they refer the cases to us. And then we'll take a look at the relevant products concerned, and then we'll take enforcement action as appropriate. In 2024, we prosecuted 2,448 cases. Compared to 2023, there were 1,117 prosecution cases, so that's an increase of 83%. That's in terms of enforcement. But then we are doing a lot more publicity too. Apart from BCPs, for example, at the District Council, Northern District Council, we went there to publicize the message. So we're doing more publicity.
I think what Mr. Leung would like to focus is regarding the online food purchases. As we have mentioned a few years back, we talk about whether it's safe enough to do online purchase, because we are not sure whether the food that we get will have health certificates and it's able to meet the food safety levels. So you've mentioned about 1,500 samples. I think what Mr. Leung is asking is about this cross-border food purchase. Is there any way for you to inspect or do random tests rather than saying that our Hong Kong customs officers will take the products to see if they have health certificates? I think the question that Mr. Leung has is, through these online food purchases, in the 8,700 samples, it's about local online purchase. But how about cross-border purchases? Is it possible for us to take samples and test? Regarding the online food purchase, since 2024, we have 34,000 samples. In previous year, there are 8,700 samples, and about 1,500 is food purchases sample. I do not want to interrupt you, but you're talking about local online food purchase, but I'm talking about cross-border online food purchase. Thank you, Chairperson. I would like to mention that cross-border online purchase, if there is a collection point in Hong Kong, we have also taken samples from these local collection points. But if they are doing it on personal level, that they may directly send to their private household, it is different from the retail import. So it's a bit difficult for us to do so. No matter what method they are, as long as it's for retail, we can do a lot more tests. But on personal level, it's less. So does it mean that there is no legal obligations for you to check these cross-border online food purchase to see if they are qualified or meet the hygiene standard? Is it out of your work scope? It is not. Under the CAP 132 AK, even it is for personal consumption, it is still under our regulations. So for high-risk food, they are under our regulations. How about non-high-risk food like hairy crabs? If it is in bulk purchase for retail, it will be under our regulations. But if it is for personal consumption, we cannot apply the import regulations on it. Mr. Leung, do you have any follow-up question? I can ask later. Next is Mr. Yeung Wen Kin, please. I would like to follow up on Mr. Leung's opinion. What we are expecting is we are mainly using the online food purchase platform. So we are thinking that is it possible to increase the testing of random sample testing from these food sources? So maybe you can suggest which area or what food type would have higher risk, and you can inform the public so that our citizens can be aware when they are doing online purchase on these food, but they can have a higher awareness on it, so they can be more alert. So this is our objective. I personally have 3 questions to further follow up. The first one is according to our results. We can see that the overall result is over 99.8% but to take a look at the dairy products, there are 0.33% that doesn't pass the test. There are 34 samples, is relatively high compared to other food types. I would like to see, because there are 31 samples is regarding the food safety index. So I would like to ask, what kind of food are they? Should we do more promotion or education to either the retail or the consumers that they can enhance the food safety? The second question is, since we have the 99.9% of food safety standard level, this is our strength. So is it possible to promote our food safety as a brand in Hong Kong? Question number 3 is regarding the hairy crabs. No matter it's from Jiangsu or our local, we all hope that we can consume cheap hairy crabs. We want that to come directly from the source of origin and we can enjoy it. So I would like to see what kind of communication are we up to at the moment with relevant authorities in the mainland. Thank you. So, Mr. Deb, please. Maybe I can respond to the hairy crab question. Regarding, we are actually very concerned about the place of origin, but our regulation is the same to any of the places of origin of the hairy crabs. But we also know that there are some agricultural farms would like to have direct access that they can give their products to their crabs to our Hong Kong market. So we are still in discussion and communication with Hong Kong Customs. Thank you. I would like to follow up on this first. According to my understanding, the hairy crabs regulation it's quite high. Because Hong Kong's standard is higher than other countries' regulations or other countries' standards on hairy crabs. So to mainland, it's actually quite difficult for them to sell it to us. So what you would like to see is that regarding the dioxin levels or other levels, other chemical tests, we also have legal issues with the regulations on dioxins. Because the level for dioxins under the regulation is relatively high. Is it necessary to have such a high standard for this? So I think your department should consider under this current business environment. A lot of us do not understand that why the crabs should travel all around the world before arriving Hong Kong. Is it because it does not reach to our standard? You don't have to answer me right now. You can wait till later. So what I would like you to respond is regarding the food safety brand. Is it possible for us to promote it as one of our Hong Kong brand? Another issue is regarding the dairy products. The higher failing rate. I would like to respond on the dioxin level. We have to clarify that not all countries in the world have a dioxin level regulations. So not even in mainland, there isn't a standard on dioxins. But our standard is according to scientific research. But we're talking about consuming the hairy crabs for an entire year. But we can tell that the hairy crabs imported so far, it's still meeting our levels. In over the 100 years, there isn't any crabs that actually do not meet our standard. So I think we can continue to discuss with the Hong Kong Customs on the amendment of the regulations. We have been talking about for years, so I'm not sure if I can witness the change of the standards. Thank you, Mr. Yang, for your questions. Regarding the food safety brand, I would like to thank the industry because regarding Hong Kong brand, our reputation, it's a result of the government's regulations and also the collaboration from the industry. The industry has spent a lot of resources to guarantee food safety level and together with the government regulations. So our brand in Hong Kong has a very good reputation in the world. Also, the Hong Kong government has also paid a lot of effort. In our previous report, we are able to get the brand for Hong Kong to help with our trading. There are three big products types. Even with the sample testing, we don't have to do the second checkup. This is actually very helpful to our industry. So although it's these three food products, although it's only three, it actually occupies more than half of our food export to mainland. So we would like to promote it within our industry to polish our brand The second issue is about the dairy products sample. The reason of not meeting the standards is about the health indicator, the health index. We are talking about the imported dairy products because we are more stringent on this. Regarding because they need to meet our health index in order for them to enter the market for retail purposes. Because this is to protect our citizens from food safety. So everyone please be ensured that even these imported dairy products can enter our market, they can still enjoy it.
Mr. Yang, please turn on Mr. Yang's microphone. I'm fine. I don't have any follow-up questions. Thank you. Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Every year, we have this item on the food surveillance program. Well, there are three key points, really. One, just now someone asked about the online food platform. The second issue is in Hong Kong, we've seen a number of food safety incidents, norovirus, and then, of course, the radiation contaminated water from in Japan, and as mentioned of helicaps. First, I'll talk about helicaps. I think we need to clarify the standards, because if you don't do that, that could lead to various food safety loopholes. Or rather, not helicaps, but the online food. Now, you may think people bring food back for their own consumption, but they go on to sell the items online? There's no mechanism to prove that. Now, of course, there are law-abiding eateries in Hong Kong, but then if your standard is so high and so food ingredients become very expensive, but then there is need to sell them, so some may take chances, and they may say that they just bring in helicaps for their own consumption. And say they bring in a batch of crabs that could feed 20 in a family, so they're actually selling them. So how do you address this issue? In the long run, if you want to resolve the matter, you need to make sure there is smooth supply. There's the second question about nuclear waste water. Now, whenever people always ask when we'll resume the supply of aquatic food from Japan. I'm not talking about political issues, but I'm saying that we have to make reference to the arrangement and standards of the country. And so the country maybe collect samples for testing, but when will they come to some sort of decision? And what has the government done so far? Maybe we have to wait till July before there is any outcome, so maybe we can tell people that, and so no one needs to ask questions, because before the mainland authorities come up with any findings, there's no point that we keep pursuing the matter. And the third question is about food safety incidents. You mentioned ice cream being a high-risk product. Now, when hotels or restaurants had any food safety incidents, it's mostly either to do with ice cream or raw oysters. And then if there's an incident, then the CFS and the FEHD will go to the reference kitchen to collect samples. I witnessed one such operation. They're very careful. They even scraped something off the chopping board, for instance. But then when it comes to ice cream or raw oysters, well, probably the food poisoning happens a few days later, and only then you go and collect samples. It's too late. So when the government wants to protect consumers, how do you pursue the matter with hotels? Because your samples cannot prove there's something wrong with the hotel. There's only a suspicion. So that's why many people called me and asked how we could have a proper mechanism to confirm the source of contamination. And then we must, of course, safeguard the brand of Hong Kong food safety. And we shouldn't waste resources to deal with cases that have already passed. Rather, it's better to focus our resources on prevention. And if there's an incident, there's need, then we are able actually to prosecute and force the referent party to improve their hygiene condition. That's the most important. Secretary. Food safety is the gold standard for Hong Kong. I will certainly try to preserve it. And it's true that we need to put resources at the right place. Now, about nuclear wastewater issue with Japan. Now, we must take preventive measures to ban the import of aquatic products from high-risk places. Japan claims that the wastewater discharge is in line with standards that Japan's been claiming all the while. Well, they've been discharging contaminated water for just over a year, but there have already been 7 incidents, and some of their staff were contaminated. So it's not a question of standard. It's about the operation or the management standard. That's a cause of concern. Now, they're discharging such huge volume of wastewater into the sea. It's never happened in history. So should there be any man-made errors, the consequence could be dire. That's why there is need for us to adopt a preventive approach. So for the 10 metropolis prefectures which are high risk, then we will ban products coming from these places. We will monitor the development, of course. The country, the IAEA and Japan have agreed to an arrangement for the country to be involved in the independent monitoring of wastewater from Japan. And that will, of course, help to control risks. So that may help to that may be useful for us to eventually relax the control. But then we'll see how the arrangement works, and then we have to. So that means we have to wait before we decide whether we could slowly relax the control. Because here we're talking about managing risk. Now, the referent main authorities and the referent international organizations are in close contact with us. We will keep exchanging information with them. Hairy crabs. What about people bringing in hairy crabs? How can you prove that they are not selling them? Because there are people selling them. Controller, thank you. On hairy crabs, we fully appreciate your concern. We are also very much concerned too. We have a multi-pronged approach. During the hairy crab season, we launch joint operations with other law enforcement agencies. We will look at the market to try to identify the sources of supply, and also at the boundary crossing point. We do have operations to follow individual cases to see whether the hairy crabs are actually being delivered for sale, for retail purposes, for instance. But I won't go into the details of the enforcement operations. Now, there's mention of food poisoning cases. The Deputy Chairman is right to point out that if there is any food poisoning incident, the CFS and the FHD staff will immediately go to the relevant eating establishment to carry out inspection, and, for example, to look at the food preparation process and collect samples. Now, the Deputy Chairman mentioned ice cream and aquatic products. Now, apart from collecting samples on site, we also put in place preventive measures. In our annual food surveillance program, we know that ice cream is high-risk food, is also regulated food. So at the import and retail levels, we will take we will conduct surveillance. We don't wait till there are food poisoning incidents. As for aquatic products, in 2024, we collected 8,100 samples. Well, there's no need to reply. I just want you to do something. Many make ice cream on their own. They sell it and the ice cream is gone. So how do you protect consumers so that they're able to pursue liability with the hotels, for instance? But then because now they can't do anything, at most they'll just get a few $100 worth of coupons back from the hotel. Mr. Ronick Chen. Now, two members asked about milk products because there's the highest failure rate with milk product. I think with milk product, the most important is the delivery condition. Now you have we see the test results. So have you talked to the importers? So with their cold chain delivery, are they using the right technology and technique to meet your stand requirements? Because, if the ice cream is homemade, there's nothing we can do. But what about import of ice cream? Can you do more at source to improve the quality or to improve the satisfactory rate? And then another question is summer target surveillance program. You do random samples. Well, in summer, it could be really hot, 40 degrees Celsius, or it could be really humid. So with high temperature and humidity, there may be much impact on certain food types. So will you have regard to the change in weather when you collect random samples and then you collect samples from high-risk food? That means food that could go off easily. Hairy crabs. Another question is on hairy crabs. You only test the first consignment of imported hairy crabs. You won't do tests on subsequent consignments. So if, say, there are 10 consignments, and for the other consignments, you will only do surveillance at the retail level. That's the regular surveillance. But then, as the Deputy Chairman pointed out, someone may bring in hairy crabs from unknown sources. So at the retail level, the retailer will not tell you where the crabs come from. And so from regular surveillance at the retail level, how can you trace the origin of the crabs? Is it from the same from the same farm, for which the first consignment was tested, or were the crabs from other sources? How can you tell? How can you trace that? Dr. Wong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, a member. Milk product, if I may mention. Now, if a milk product is imported, then we'll follow up with the importer. And then the Deputy Chairman mentioned homemade ice cream. Now, if it's homemade ice cream for the purpose of sale, there's a need to obtain a food factory license. So we do collect samples from local food factories, confectionery factories in particular. So we collect samples from both locally made ice cream and imported ice cream. And if it's a locally made ice cream, we hold talks for local manufacturers from time to time. So we remind them what they need to look out for when they manufacture ice cream. Temperature is definitely one issue. Additives are also important, and another important issue because say with lollipops, manufacturers may add fruits there, and food must be handled with great care. Otherwise, for the item to pass our test. So we keep in communication with the industry. Mr. Chen refers to the summer targeted food surveillance. Thank you for your suggestion. Now, the reason why we have a special summer surveillance program is exactly because the temperature is high in summer, food may go off easily. So that's why we always collect samples from food that goes off easily. And when we collect example, we carry a coolant box or refrigerator. As soon as we collect samples, and we'll immediately put the samples into the coolant box or refrigerator to make sure that it's in the same condition as it's in the shop. Hairy crabs, as I mentioned, during the hairy crab season, we have joint operations with the customs, the FHD. So FHD, CFS, and customs carry out joint operations to look at the source, because for hairy crabs sold at the retail level, there is need for a health certificate. So we'll ask for the health certificate. Now, on the health certificate, there will be the quantity indicated, and then we'll trace the origin, and we'll do a tally to make sure that consignment is covered by the health certificate. So every year during the hairy crab season, we will issue press release on the effectiveness of our joint operations.
Regarding the ice cream, no matter it's imported or made in Hong Kong, in terms of the shipment, is there any promotion or education on their manufacturing from shipment to the retail points, or regarding the overseas imported ice cream? Will there be any guidelines for them to follow? Would there be any suggestions from your department that what kind of guidelines should we follow? In our seminar, in different parts in the seminar, we highlighted the importance of temperature, because the temperature of keeping it and during shipment is very, very important. So we do have guidelines for the industry to follow. Apart from the manufacturer of ice cream, we also give guidelines to the retailer to follow. Next is Mr. De, please. Food safety is very important, and we all agree on it. I have 2 points to follow up and would like to know more about. First, it's about the sample testing from imported wholesale food, and also on the retail. I would like to know about the ratio. In the appendix, in Appendix 1, you talk about the regular food items. What you have mentioned is what we often eat. The regular surveillance. So I would like to see what is the ratio or percentage of the sample from wholesale and from retail. Say, for instance, for fruits, maybe when you're in the imported side, there's no problem. But when you are doing testing in the retail, during storage, they may add in preservatives, or the environment may affect the food safety level. This is also important to pay attention to how retail keep the food. Just now we mentioned about the ice cream, how restaurants store the ice cream and dairy products, and ultimately reaching to consumers, because all these will affect the food quality. So I would like to ask, what is the ratio on it when you're doing the test? Because all the results are very good at the moment. The second point is that I would like to know more about the item number 3 on the documents. You talk about there are 110 samples that are not up to standard. these unsatisfactory samples would have follow-up action taken by your department. Would the public know about the follow-up action and how and your ultimate way to handle these unsatisfactory samples? Controller, would you have the exact numbers of the ratio of wholesale and retail? Thank you for the question. In terms of the ratio, we have about 65,000 samples. In 2024, there are 66,000. 45% are from wholesale, and 48% are retail, and others are bulk purchase. Because for bulk purchase market, we also take a little sample for testing. This percentage changes every year, depends on our resource allocation. Regarding the unsatisfactory samples, we usually do so after the release of getting the results. We'll release it to the public. We have a few channels. The first one is the Food Safety Center's website. And also we will have press release so that the public can get to know the results through different channels. We also have different communications to the industry to inform them there are food products that are not up to standard, so they can be aware of. Regarding the ratio on bulk purchase and wholesale and retail, I think different food products would be different because the risks are different for different food. So would you adjust the percentage for different products? Say, for instance, ice cream. Would you say, for instance, would you do more testing for retail in terms of selling ice cream? How do you consider how much resource you allocate? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tse. Maybe I can use some time to explain. In terms of risk assessment for imported ice cream, we do a lot of testing when they are importing at the borders. When they are entering our border, we do the test at the border, and we do a lot of testing there. If it is locally made, we will do a lot more in the retail level. Of course, we'll also visit the manufacturers to visit as well. And at last, we also will take a lot of samples at the retail level to ensure that in terms of shipment and storage temperature control are also up to standard when they are about to sell to the consumers. So we would consider this to do our testing. Last but not least, when we see unsatisfactory samples, we will require the manufacturers or retailers to follow up, and we will do more testing in these retailers or importers. But it is different in different food products. So this is what we set by according to risk assessment. Next, Ms. Chan Hoi-Yan, please. Thank you, Chairperson. We see that CFS has done a lot in here. I personally are very concerned about online food purchase. We see that you have done a lot of testing in previous years, from 1,500 to 8,000 something. But when you're using press release to release the unsatisfactory rate, but there are 1,000 300 food samples in 2024, there are only one prepackaged salad was detected with salmonella. This is on the 8th of August 2024. But I looked up to this press release. You did not mention that this is actually from online delivery platforms. You did not mention which retail outlet it is. So I would like to see if you should be more aware or find ways to communicate with the public that this is actually from online, because salmonella is actually a very common and serious virus. So is it possible if you're able to do regular test or assessment to us? Would it be possible for you to let us know the recent popular food type to educate the public through your press release? This is the first point. The second one is for risk assessment. Can you mention about the new norovirus? To talk about if you're using the risk assessment way at the moment, how much percentage are you going to increase in terms of doing it? And number 3 is that we have food delivery platforms. We don't have a lot, but at the moment there isn't a lot of license giving to them. And so they may not have taken the responsibility on food safety, although you have given them guidelines. But how do you guarantee the restaurants or food outlets to ensure the temperature during shipment or delivery if they do not meet the standard? For instance, for frozen food, that should be go under 4 degrees Celsius, or heated food. Can you also consider how to enhance the food safety level? Thank you. Controller, please. Thank you, Ms. Chan. Thank you for your suggestions. Regarding the online food sales, regarding the press release, I agree that there's room for improvement. We can do more on online food sales. We can add in the online food sales information. Because in your press release, you have not mentioned at all. I think what she mentioned is not only one single press release. I think what she mentioned is, would there be a press conference to share what you have observed from the online food sales phenomenon, so that the public can be more aware of what's going on, what's happening at the moment, and what should be aware of and be cautious when they are doing online food purchase. Regarding this issue, we can go back and discuss further. The second one on norovirus, I would like to respond to it. We are highly concerned about it. In fact, there are 2 big types. One is it can lead to immediate it actually is caused by the vomit or saliva from others. It is different from the food. The second type is about the food. The contaminated food or water that they have consumed, or the food itself, can travel or pass on from one person to another person through food. or some patients may have taken food that are not entirely cooked or taken some shale aquatic item food. The cases of food poisoning regarding norovirus does have improved. So we have enhanced the education work. So we also raised the awareness of how a restaurant can do the cleaning and hygienic work after a customer vomited in the place. They need to use 1-49 bleach to clean the floor or the whole area for a period of time, say for instance 30 minutes, to ensure that the virus or bacteria are killed. And of course, the food has to be well cooked. If staff in the restaurants have to avoid getting in touch with the food or handling food. Also, we should also avoid eating the raw food, because for norovirus, if the food is cooked, the virus can be killed. So eating cold food, the risk will be higher. Of course, we can do more promotion. Regarding the platform, for delivery platform, would you or have you tried to do some regulations on it? Say, for instance, the vehicle itself. How can we regulate to ensure that the food is safely arrived to the customer's place? Are there any effort put on this area? We have collaborated with different parties and units. CFS has collaborated with the platforms. We have meetings with them. We talk about the transferal. We talk about how can the food be packaged and the possible risk of cross-contamination. What is most important is the temperature and also the time. So, for example, they need to deliver ice confectionery.
Have you collected samples, say, from the point the food leaves the eating establishment till it arrives at the customer? Have you done any collected samples and tested the samples to make sure that the delivery is safe? This is to give assurance to the public. We have conducted an operation. We called to order food online, and then we time how long the sample arrives, and then you test the samples. Yes, we've done that. Next, Mr. Peter Shield. Now, I certainly recognize the work of the CFAs because we have a high level food standard and safety in Hong Kong, and CFS staff have been working really hard to collect and test samples. And then the overall satisfactory rate is 99.8%, is a really high percentage. So I thank you for your hard work. Of course, we need to ensure food safety. At the same time, we have to consider economic development. Harry Krabs, the chairman and deputy chairman, have been talking about it. And now we always hear this term result-oriented. So Harry Krabs, do you want Harry Krabs to be sold in Hong Kong? That's the result we want to see. Where we know the crab comes from the same source, but then it's first shipped overseas before coming back to Hong Kong. For example, in Korea, the crab first goes to Korea before coming here, and so someone will make money in Korea, but then who ends up picking up the tab? Of course, it's the consumers in Hong Kong. And if herring crabs are expensive, either they choose not to eat herring crabs at all, or they go north to eat herring crabs. We all know what it's like. If we talk about being result-oriented, we're talking about promoting the economy here. So why do we want to let others to make money with this shipping process? Now you keep saying you will do something, but when? When can you do something before next herring crab season? Paragraph 12. Targeted food surveillance on nutrition labeling. You have done survey. Now the nutrition labeling is about ensuring balanced diet and also to make sure people who have allergies know what to avoid. So it's also about food safety. Just now many colleagues mentioned cross-boundary online shopping. Now, if people buy online and then the food products do not have nutrition labeling on the packaging, so what do you do with that? Controller. Thank you, Mr. Shiu. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On herring crabs, we share members' views. We want to protect food safety. At the same time, we want to facilitate the import of food. So we will work harder. Hopefully, I'm sorry, I can't really agree that your views or your department's view on herring crabs are the same as those of members. I think you have a hard time finding a single member that sees eye to eye with your approach. Now, on coming back to online food and then the nutrition labeling does not meet your requirement. So what do you do? Especially for food coming from an online source, do you look at the nutrition label? Now, if the food is bought online for retail in Hong Kong, then we look at the labeling. But if it's for own individual consumption, you don't look at it. Now, if the public buy food online, there's always nutrition labeling in any place. But if food is to be sold in Hong Kong, then the nutrition labeling requirements of Hong Kong must be met. We have carried out enforcement actions. And we thank a member for information we followed on certain cases. For example, we visited some online food platforms. We buy the food there, and then we look at and then we check the samples when we receive the product. Well, usually they have there is a collection point in Hong Kong. So that means it's food sales. And then we find also the nutrition labeling that does not meet our requirements. So we've taken actions in those cases. You mean for individual consumption, there's nothing you can do? Well, if it's not for retail or selling, then, well, by law, there's no need to do anything. I don't have any time left. Please continue. Now, people go north to buy food. Of course, they can't bring back raw pork, but then they can bring vegetables. And if they bring in vegetable, have you taken samples of such vegetable for testing? Have you ever done that? That is, people carrying vegetable across the boundary. You mean people bring vegetable for their own consumption? Well, they carry a food basket and bring in the food. Well, currently, food regulation is about high-risk regulated food. If someone just brings in vegetable or fruit for own consumption, then we do not have any import control or arrangement. Yes, I get that. What I'm trying to say is that, well, the CFS has been doing a good job for all the time, because from at the cross-boundary point you start to do testing, and then at the fish and vegetable wholesale market or at the distribution point and retail point you carry out inspection and tests. But then that's the usual retail pattern, but now that's changed. People now go north and bring back vegetable or fruit, or they buy online across the boundary. It's not like when we go traveling and we just bring in a few packets of food, but the quantity is now huge. Now with nutrition labeling, at the time when it was first introduced, there's this quote exemption for less than 5,000 packs. With more than 5,000 packs, and then there's a need for nutrition labeling. Now, but then maybe, then people are buying such items, that add up to more than add up to a huge quantity, because there are thousands of people buying online, bringing them in. Now, with this arrangement, there's no need to test any food, so the whole retail pattern has changed. You have to think about ways to deal with such changes, either at a cross-boundary level and so on. You have to deal with issues such as the nutrition labeling requirements, food safety requirements, and so on. Dr. Yim Kwong, I agree with the issue raised by Mr. Peter Hsu. I want to talk about hairy crabs. In October 2023, there was this incident, and we wrote to the government about the inability of bringing in hairy crabs by the trade. The administration replied that it has sufficient surveillance capacity, so it will also keep in discussion with the relevant parties, but so far there's not been much progress, it seems. I hope that before the hairy crab season this year, people in Hong Kong no longer have to pay for expensive crabs. Well, good luck to you. Just now I said, I wonder if I'll be able to see any changes in my lifetime. Well, that's why I share other members' views. That's why I'm raising this point again. Now, another question. In about July, or summer, or August, the FHC will inspect the factories of suppliers of lunchboxes to schools, and then you collect samples for testing. And now there is a guide for such lunchbox manufacturers. Last year, what is the outcome of the inspection cycle last year for manufacturers of lunchboxes or to schools? And have you asked them to bring improvement? Then there are larger schools that may ask the supplier to keep certain samples of lunchboxes each day, but then for the smaller schools, they may not make such a requirement. Will you consider including this as a mandatory requirement in the guide? This is therefore it is to facilitate tracing of lunchboxes when there's a problem, and also it will enhance the awareness of suppliers to comply with requirements. Controller, is it to do with the Education Bureau or you, or do you have to work together with the Education Bureau on this? Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, each year the CFS and the Hygiene Division of the FHC will inspect the factories supplying lunchboxes to schools. Of course, we'll work with other government departments as well. Well, we have such an operation in July and August each year is because we want to inspect these lunchbox suppliers before the school year starts. We want to check their hygiene condition. We also collect samples for testing. So this is a preventive measure. But then just now, Dr. Kim Kong asked about another issue. Let's say there are problems with lunch boxes supplied to schools. We will take follow-up action. We immediately visit the factory. We will look at the manufacturing process. We'll look at the temperature control and so on. Say for the storage of lunch boxes and food. And then we'll try to identify the problem, and then improvement measures can be taken. So we take a dual-pronged approach. But right now it's just a guideline. It's not mandatory. I don't know if it's the guideline of the FHD or the Education Bureau. We want this to be a mandatory requirement. So for all schools, regardless of their sizes, they must require the supplier to keep samples of lunchboxes every day. Well, you're saying that even if there are no incidents, there's need to keep samples every day, right? For the larger schools, let's say with HACCP, they will keep samples for each batch of lunchboxes, and they have to store the samples properly. But then for the smaller factories, they may have difficulties doing that if they have to keep samples for every batch. And of course, every day they may supply different types of lunch boxes, A, B, C, D, and so for smaller manufacturers, they may have problems. Even the school may have problems storing the samples or storing the lunch boxes. They may have no storage facilities. Anyway, you can follow up on that. Maybe you need to take it up with the Education Bureau too. Thank you.
For me, I would not. This topic, it's overrunning. I just have 2 comments. You don't have to respond. The first one is regarding the hairy crabs. If we eat 24 crabs every day for the entire year, and we need to eat for during the entire lifetime, then we will suffer. So I would like you to reconsider the standard, how to set the standard. It's not about us eating 24 crabs per day for consecutive years, and then you'll be prone to the risk of getting cancer because of the dioxin. So I would like you to set a more realistic standard for hairy crabs. The second point is on the nuclear water. I do support your decision on the nuclear contaminated water. 2 years ago, I visited Japan. When I talk about this, I mentioned to them that they need to involve our Chinese scientists in their IAEA, because they need to be part of it. You can get back to me later. I would like to see if we have any scientists over there to get the water samples, or do we have scientists in Japan to get the water sample to see how they operate? And would there be a regular report that can be provided to you or to the government? Thank you. Regarding this matter, our country does have joined the IAEA to do the monitoring and surveillance program on the nuclear contaminated water. So they do have collected samples, and after collected the samples, they need to do a lot of tests in order to get the the international nuclear recognition. So we do have close communication with the central government to get these data and results. So you are the one who are getting in touch with our experts. So what have you get? Can you share with us a little bit more? For sure, we have close connection with them. I think this you should be cautious because in our industry, when we are doing imported food from Japan, although seemingly there are less business at the moment, but I think it could be because of the poorer economy at the moment. Because if we are too lenient on these imported food from Japan, it could create a high risk. So I think I prefer you taking a more stringent approach on this. I totally agree with you. And I believe that what we are doing can ensure the food safety. So what I always mention is I believe the food from Japan in Hong Kong is safer than the food in Japan. So I also mentioned this because we collect samples and do testing for 100%. So our food from Japan is safer than the food in Japan. So let's move on to the second item to talk about the fish pond culture, sustainable development on the fish pond culture. So as our government officials are entering, whoever would like to speak, please press the button. Because I have too many questions just now, so I'm sorry that I don't have enough time for you to ask more questions regarding this topic later. We have two sets of documents, 446/2025 (04), and this is from the government. And the document 05 is our background brief, the information note. So we did read the documents, and because I've overrun the previous topic, we are now 20 minutes behind schedule. So I hope that please be more concise in your report. Thank you. So we will try to be concise. Hi, everyone. I would like to introduce our direction and measures to promote the sustainable development on pond culture. Hong Kong has a relatively mild climate, and there are numerous contiguous fish ponds. Some are located in brackish waters. So to ensure the quality and quantity of locally cultured fish, the AFCD wished to promote diversification of the industry. We hope that we can preserve the characteristics of traditional practices and at the same time steer aquaculture development towards sustainable, technologically advanced and diversified operations. So first is install modernized aquaculture equipment at traditional fish ponds. So we hope that we can encourage the eco-friendly aquaculture practice. We hope that we can also promote inland aquaculture farms. The AFCD also hope that we can have the demonstration and implementation of modernized aquaculture, and we hope that we can use the Sampo Shu Conservation Park as pilot to provide suitable land and infrastructure. We hope that we can also establish a local brand on the fishery products and local agricultural products. We also hope that we can train new talents and attract new entrants into industry. We also hope that the finance and technical assistance to our industry. We now pass the time to Dr. Chu. So now I would like to introduce this document to all of you. The government has suggested in the Sustainable Development of Agriculture and Fisheries Blueprint set out a series of specific measures to assist industries. First is to introduce modernized agriculture. Our pond fish culture is centered in Northwest New Territories. We have about 1,350 tons of freshwater fish amounting to approximately 37 million. We have mostly the carp polyculture. We also have jade perch or other marine or brackish species like giant grouper, etc. But most fish farmers operate individually with traditional cultural practice, so they have less incentive to invest in their business. So it's difficult to promote modernized mode of operation. We hope that we can introduce intensive and highly intelligent and precise way to do modernized pond culture in mainland. So we hope that we can learn from them to enhance our production. Hong Kong has mild climate. In the contiguous fish ponds, some of the area are located in brackish waters, which is conducive to the further development of pond fish culture. To enhance the quality and quantity of locally cultured fish, the AFCD has made reference to the experience in the mainland and plans to introduce emerging cultural systems and operations that are suitable for Hong Kong to promote diversification of the country. So we hope that we can preserve the characteristics of traditional practice and at the same time work towards sustainable and technologically advanced operations. There are different techniques. Mostly it's about water quality recycling and remote real-time monitoring system, or selection of species, or nutrition control, disease control, and comprehensive management. So we hope that we can do more high-intensive agricultural operations to provide sustainable condition. High-density, high-tech, and high-yield agriculture operations can break through the environmental constraints of traditional fish ponds. By adopting advanced technology and management methods coupled with standardized, mechanized, automated, and informatized techniques, apart from places other than traditional fish ponds, we can do semi-indoor or indoor agriculture operations to increase the agriculture production and efficiency in a limited space. I'm sorry, I just want to remind you that we are wasting time. We are off at 6:30. We are not up to 25% of the whole PowerPoint. According to the pace at the moment, after you finish the PowerPoint, it's already time. Do you think you can be more precise, please? I can be quicker. How about I introduce the techniques? The first one is the inland water recycle indoor recirculating agricultural systems. So we are hoping to encourage the eco-friendly agriculture operations. We are hoping that through the water treatment, we can do a better environment, create a better atmosphere for them. So for other ponds, we hope to improve or enhance the ecology of it. So with this new atmosphere or environment, you can see from our photos that the water wastage can be treated and undergo purification to create better environment. We also have the agri-enjoy leisure fisheries activities. So we hope that in our Outao Fishery Office, we hope that we can do a demonstration point then. We hope that we can apply the modernized agriculture and a smart agriculture management. We hope that by the third quarter of 2025, the initial results can be revealed in 2026. Regarding Sampo-Shu Wetland Conservation Park WCP, will be a pilot to provide suitable land and infrastructure for the development of modernized agriculture. There will be 250 hectares to do ecologically enhanced fish ponds and 40 hectares to provide the fisheries enhancement area to pursue high density and high-tech, high-yield culture operations. So at the Sampo-Shu WCP, we hope that we can join hands with the trade organizations to manage it together. Last but not least, we will also set up a fisheries research center to conduct research and experiments on modernized agriculture. We would also establish a new unified brand for local agriculture and fisheries products. So we hope that we can have high standards, fine quality, and safety to enhance the competitiveness of local agriculture and fishery products. And another area is we would like to train the talents. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education to jointly organize the Diploma in Modernized Agriculture program. Last but not least is our finance and technical assistance will through the Sustainable Fisheries Development Fund and also the Category Agriculture Aid Loan Fund to expand and enhance their agricultural business. That's my report. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chu. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. Kitson Yan, Ms. Rebecca Chen have asked to speak. First, Deputy Chairman, 5 minutes. Now, thank you for the blueprint to start with. You've done much in promoting technology, and then the Sampo-Shu Conservation Park has also made a change because there's no more conflict between environmental protection and fisheries development. So we support the direction. I think at this point in Hong Kong, we don't really have issues with technology because with your support. I think it's more about the policy and land use. So I like to speak on 3 points. One, the supply, the retail chain. Well, but even but there's no assurance with wholesale. Now the temporary wholesale market has moved once. And now it's so close to villages, and then they want to move the market again. People complain. So there's no space yet for building wholesale market. Now, okay, there's pond fish culture, and then you want the operators to send the fish directly to markets. It's not possible with any large-scale operation. There won't be level playing field for competition. So you have to give attention to the distribution points. Otherwise, even if you build a local brand, the local brand cannot really compete with other products coming from elsewhere. But they have to compete on prices, but that's not really our edge. It's not about price, it's about quality. And the Sampo-Shu Conservation Park, now you had to resume fish ponds to establish the conservation park. Well, you started to talk about it in 2015, but then we're almost 2025. We still don't know when the Sampo-Shu Conservation Park will be established, and by then people know you're going to resume land. So some fish pond operators have been evicted by landlords, but then the operators not given any compensation because they've left, and then the fish pond is given back to the landlord. But the landlord is not actually a fish pond operator, and eventually the compensation goes to the landlord. So it's about when you freeze the the registration, you should not. You should make sure that money that's supposed to be for fish pond operators to reestablish their business, not ending in their hands, but rather the compensation goes to the landlord. We don't want that. And then leisure fish farming. What's the definition? What do you mean by leisure? What is the consumption pattern? In the future, there's the question of having to pay a land premium. So if it's a fish pond, maybe people can go there to fish, but then the fee may be charged or restaurants may be set up. So now you're talking about agri-enjoy scheme, but then we shouldn't leave it to this scheme. And you ask people to pay $33,000 or so for food factory license, and this is not in line with the long-term leisure policy. Now, you may not be able to answer my third question, but I hope you will really consider a certification system for leisure farm. We don't want people to use the name of the farm to start a restaurant or playground. But rather, we want to make sure there's proper development of leisure fish farms. On the sales chain, I'll ask my colleague to supplement on Sampo Xu. In the second half of 2025, Phase 1 detailed design works will be completed in phases. In 2026 to 27, we will complete Phase 1 detailed design, and then we will start the construction works of the Phase 1 of the park. We hope to complete Phase 1 in 2031. And in the process, there will be transition arrangement, as the Deputy Chairman mentioned. We'll approach the fish pond operators. And then if there are any specific arrangements, we will inform the sector, maybe through the member too. On leisure fish farms, we've done a lot. For example, in terms of policy, we have introduced a definition for leisure fish farms. And then there's also suitable sites designated in our licensing plan. And for obtaining licenses from the food FHD, we have relaxed the requirements. We have now adopted a more liberal approach, but of course we have to consider the actual situation. We try to facilitate the fish pond operators so they could apply for the relevant food business license. Deputy Director, thank you. On the sales chain of pond fish. Now, with marine fish, the arrangement is different. That's the wholesale market approach. And then with pond fish, in Yunlong, there is a privately operated distribution point, and then we also operating fish market. Now, most pond fish goes through the Yunlong distribution point. But then there's the food by product wholesale market operated by the government. Fish could be sent there too. We are now considering some enhancement measures. We would like to establish a brand. So for locally produced freshwater fish, there's room to add value to such products. And if there is this brand effect, then through the Fisheries Management Organization, and then we could promote locally produced fish. And then there could also be a certification system, and there could be special retail points or outlets for buying locally farmed fish. This could enhance the value of locally farmed fish. and hopefully then that could increase the income of local fish pond operators. Wow, that's not much time. But the land resumption and compensation to fish pond operators, I know it's not under your bureau, but then there's a problem with the mechanism. So that's why many operators not able to receive the compensation, and they are not able to reestablish their business. If they go even if they go to Shampoo Show, they don't have money to buy the fries, and so how can they then reestablish their farm? Now, please talk to the Development Bureau. Now, I know you help with the survey, but the issue is the record recognized? People always complain about me, but the AFCD also receives a lot of complaints. But then we're talking about people here being evicted and not receiving compensation. Yes, I will pass on your remarks to the Development Bureau for follow-up. Thank you. Mr. Kissen-Yen? One question. I support the sustainable development of the overall pond fish culture scheme, because it will help fish culturists to boost production and improve quality. Now, I visited a fish pond operator, and there's a drop in sales of freshwater fish, while there's no change in the quantity supply to markets, but then there's a drop in supply to restaurants. So, well, when your technology improves, the production the yield will be higher, but then if you can't sell your fish, then prices will come down. So at the end, it may not benefit the operators at all. I think the solution is to provide more sales avenues. If you just meet the local market needs, there may not be enough incentive to operators, and they won't adopt new technology. Well, what about sales in the Greater Bay Area? If you cannot expand the market and you don't adopt technology, say, to turn them into prefabricated, pre-made food, then operators may not benefit, and they won't be keen in adopting the new technology. Thank you. Undersecretary. Yes, I agree. Now we're talking about modernizing pond fish culture for sustainable development. So if we adopt technology, there could be a greater diversity of fish products, and at the same time we could protect the habitat. So if there are new fish products, ecologically farmed fish, well, we learn from overseas experience consumers are prepared to pay more for such fish. And if the quality and the yield improve, then they could consider expanding the market. So we keep an open mind to the member suggestion. So what are the worries of fish operators, of the pond operators? Now, there's no drop in sales to the market. But of course, with the poor economy, there is less demand from restaurants. Now, with the use of new technology, there will be higher yield. So the department needs to help them to expand their sales network. Apart from the local market, what about the mainland market or even overseas market? And for fish that they cannot sell immediately, can there be help to turn the fish into pre-made food? Well, if there are more channels available, then it will be attractive. Otherwise, if you ask them to adopt new technology, they won't bother because they can't even sell what they are farming now. So there's no incentive. So you need to help them to expand the market so they're able to sell their products. Thank you. Yes, we agree. we will work harder in this front. Well, I think if we just rely on government to consider how to sell fish, really, good luck to you. It's not really their expertise. Thank you.
係咪都可以？
I understand, but let's take a look at whether in SIPA or other related bodies can think about better regulations for and incentives for them. Of course, I think if we can help them, of course it's good. It's a problem of chicken first or egg first. If there is no market to enhance our way of agriculture farms operations, it's actually quite difficult to raise the price level, to think about whether the market price can be set higher. Next, Ms. Chan, please. Thank you, AFCD, because you have put a lot of effort in agriculture fisheries operation, also in Agri-Enjoy leisure fisheries initiative. We hope that you can. It is actually a very good plan to involve the public to enjoy leisure fisheries. But I think what is the most important is also what is mentioned just now is the profit or the revenue received. Because as you mentioned, they are mainly the traditional operators that they have low incentive to invest more money on it, to modernize it. So I would like to see what is the problem here. From the funding applicants, what do they think? Is it because they think that, actually after this generation, they're going to retire and they will not invest more money or technology in it? So do you have a number that you've collected? If that's the case, then the second question is, how can we attract more talents that is from scratch, from zero? They do not have the fishery background at all. I have joined the Agri-Enjoy scheme and have seen some of them are urban farmers. The last question is for Shamposhi WCP. As a demonstration point, we would like to see is there any contradiction between the business operation and also sustainability, and how are you going to enhance the communication between the two parties? Last but not least is in mainland, there are already a lot of good practices from the mainland, and they have produced different popular fish species. Is there a possibility for us to collaborate with them? Because still, in Hong Kong, a lot of people in Hong Kong still enjoy marine fish more than freshwater fish. If mainland has such a good market, would it be able to introduce to Hong Kong as well? Thank you. Regarding the conservation and commercializing it, we do have communication between the business sector. We have explained to them that if they would like to do the ecological conservation, actually if they promote this or they execute this, our consumers are actually willing to pay higher for these products. They can also think about new initiative to target at a new market. This can also enhance their brand and their reputation. At the same time, in terms of involving in conservation and environmental protection, they can achieve scientific popularization. So such communication is conducted so that we hope that we can have both coexist together. Thank you, Chairperson. Just now you have mentioned how to attract the local fish farmers to invest more resources to bring out operate in modernized ways. They usually run in family as a family business. So it is difficult for them to take a huge sum of money to invest because traditionally, in terms of the instability of land ownership, it is quite difficult for them to take out a big sum of money to invest. We don't have a breakthrough in the previous decades. So in the end of 2023, there is a blueprint for sustainability development of agriculture and fisheries. How can we do modernization and intensification for such operation? Is that in previous years we have invited different industry or fish farmers to do site visits in mainland. As we mentioned in the documents, that there are a few new cultural operations and techniques that we can use in Hong Kong. And these new techniques and technology can be used with our Fish Development Loan Fund. And we also do matching with fish farmers and also the techniques. So this can reduce their cost of using modernized techniques. In terms of marine fish culture, we also display it in the demonstration point. We hope that we can release and share the results with you in 2026 as we promote the use of relevant technologies in this demonstration point. So we hope that we can take the lead to introduce more revenue to our industry. In terms of training of new talents, we have mentioned just now that we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education. There are quite a number of young people show interest in this program because this allows them to know more about, to understand the operation of the aquaculture and this industry so that they can join this industry for sustainable development of agriculture in Hong Kong. So these are some of the measures that we have talked about, we have worked on for training of talents. In terms of the aquaculture operation, in mainland they have rapid development on the techniques and technology. In our freshwater fish operation, in previous few months when we do site visit there, we can see their rapid development. There are a lot of areas that we can learn from them. When we mentioned the blueprint just now, and also the sample sheet WCP, we hope that we can have the infrastructure for fish farmers to do the fish farming there with some collaboration with mainland. So we hope that we can learn from the mainland practice and we can apply those in Hong Kong as well. Of course, the scale in mainland must be bigger than Hong Kong and could be better. But apart from the agriculture operations in Hong Kong, we can also take the chance to develop the leisure fisheries. So our citizens, our public can experience this new leisure activities. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have always supported this. I see no point why we don't support this plan. I have always been supported in AFCD because you have been supporting our local fish farmers. Just now you've mentioned about the matching of the funding to the technology. So you also have to consider if the young people were not fish farmers at first, they do not have the first installment to invest in this industry. If there could be possibility that you invest half and they invest half, then it would already be much better. But the most important point is how to let them have the motivation to do so. Of course, regarding the retail and sales, I think we should increase the production, because the more you produce, the market price will be lowered. And you may invite the representatives from the food and beverage industry to promote it, so we can reach out the direct retail directly. We don't need to go through a middleman like wholesale market that they lose money to the third party. So if you are able to, they can sign collaboration or contract so that they can get the source for food directly from the farm, then it will help enhance their collaboration and also their business. So if they can provide high quality with a good price, I believe the government can do something to support this incentive. This is what the government can do. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we can end on this topic. If there's no AOB, meeting adjourned.